Little to say. I'm looking forward to an outstanding meeting today. And Mike, why don't you take over?
Thank you very much, Eckhart. I will just share my screen. Uh, Really, just one announcement before we pass the meeting over to David. And that is about our class season, of course, which is now underway. We've had two sensational classes over the past two Saturdays, huge attendances. And this weekend, we hope to continue that tradition. Mike Matthews is with us, and he'll be talking about iPad OS 18 and all of the new features that iPad OS 18 includes, which of course includes essential stuff like Apple Intelligence, but a whole pile of other stuff as well. He'll be reviewing new iPad models and their features, and we do hope that you'll come along. We've seen really, really good numbers at the past two meetings, and I'm kind of guessing that we all own an iPad. So do come along. It'll be sensational. I've learned so much over the last 2 weeks about all of the new stuff. I hope that that learning will continue. I'm pretty sure that Mike will be providing copious notes about the event. So book now. You can book your place, of course, on the website as usual. So today, David is here to terrify us once again. Thanks, David. Really looking forward to hearing this because it's something that I've never given any thought to in the past. But before we introduce David, I'm just going to pass you over into the capable hands of Sheeta to talk about questions. All
All
yours.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Please, if you do have questions for David, put them in the chat and we will get to them as soon as possible or as soon as relevant. And as Mike said, please, if you have not signed up for the class, please do. And why haven't you already? We've had we've had over 100 people attend each class so far, and they have been amazing. I know that people have started buying things because of the class and wanting the new features and learning about the new features. So, with that, I'm going to hand it over to David so that, as Mike said, he can terrify us and make me throw away that new $600 printer I just bought. All right, David, all yours.
Wow, what a setup. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
Like, well, I'm going to try my best not to terrify you. The objective here is not to terrify you. My objective is awareness. And some things that I had discovered poking around, and I'll tell you why. But if you're like me and you have lots of gizmos and gadgets in the house, this will be of interest for sure. But even I thought I would start with the printer because that's something that everybody has. And so when I made this session, I thought, let's start somewhere where everyone can be on even ground and maybe show you some things that you didn't even know were going on in your printer and what it means. What are the consequences of that? So just a little fresh update for those of you who don't know me or maybe wondering who is this guy. So I've been in the cybersecurity industry for 24 years. I have bad news and good news. The bad news is wah, wah. I was part of a RIF of late. So August 6th was my last day at Trend Micro as the field CTO for public sector. After 24 years, but this is what happens. And when one door closes, others may open. So I decided after detoxing and letting the air out that I was going to use the time to reinvent myself and shore up my skill set, etc. So in the span of 3 months, I went back and got my CompTIA Security Plus certification. A few weeks after that, popped in with the CompTIA Network Plus certification. And then, I can't remember the name of the gentleman who was speaking from Atlanta, but I went down to Atlanta and spent a week for EC Council, which is an organization that has very respected certifications worldwide. And they were holding a Certified Ethical Hacker, or CEH. So after this class, I will continue to get into all of your home networks. And no, I will not do that. But it is very interesting going through that kind of training, because essentially, in order to understand how an attacker thinks, you have to get into the not just get into the mind necessarily, but learn the skills that hackers use. Or I shouldn't say hackers, I should say threat actors, because hackers just means curious people. And for those who are looking to do damage, you have to understand what the tools and techniques they use are, and be able to do the same so that you can understand how to defend yourself. So that was a very intense week, after which we had a 4-hour exam and then a 6-hour practical hands-on exam. So the 4-hour exam, yay. 6-hour exam, not quite yet, but that's okay. And that really opened my eyes to my own home network and what might be going on it, where I was enjoying these devices and figuring everything, well, not figuring everything is A-okay, but when you come out of a class like this, or you get exposure to these kinds of things, it really gets nailed into your head. 2 magical words. Yes, yay, Whitehead said. And those 2 words are assume breach. So there is no question that threat actors have been in your home network. I could do a whole other class on devices that show you the traffic going in and out of your house. And if you saw that, you would definitely be concerned. So it is always a good idea to assume breach and assume your data's out there. And today I'm just going to show you one of the very common but uncommonly known ways that that might happen. And just one more thing in Steve Jobs' terminology, something crazy set of circumstances. I wound up, I don't know if any of you are in cyber and you're familiar with Amit Yoran. He was the former CEO of a company called Tenable. And through what I will only call as divine intervention, I wound up, through many connections and some that got a hold of me, to meet his family and officiate the funeral, which was last Wednesday here in Virginia, and got to know the family and a bunch of people that worked at the company. And who knows, that might turn into an opportunity in itself. But it was just a really intense, emotional week. And this was a guy who was in Homeland Security and started up the CERT program, the Computer Emergency Response Team, which was putting out all the information to the general public about threats. He had several of his own companies, one that he sold to Dell for a whole heap of money. And his last company was Tenable. He was 54. He had battled cancer for a year and was on the other side of it. Then it came back, and in a very horrifying way took his life. So that's the update from me on what's been happening. So why did I call this class Throw Away Your Printer? I explain, right? Because here's a very common object, probably in everybody's home, that is probably on all the time. That is leaving a gaping hole open in your network at the same time. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to show you a few examples on how you can take a look at that. But first, it's kind of important to set the scene here for what else has been going on in our home networks with our smart devices, right? So some of the smart home device compromises, a few of these I'd heard of, one that I haven't, that kind of blew me away. But you've probably heard about the Ring cameras getting threat actors getting unauthorized access to the live feeds of the camera. You may have heard about the situation where employees had access to the videos, but you may not have known that they were also hacked, and those live feeds could be watched by threat actors too. Now, You might say, well, this Ring camera is on the outside. I don't really care if someone views the live feed of my neighbor walking by and not picking up after his dog. That may very well be the case, but many of us have cameras inside the home, and so you should pretty much act as if you're on camera all the time. And maybe you don't want to have cameras in the home. You have to kind of weigh the convenience versus the security aspect of it. So that was the Ring doorbell. That was one of the more recent compromises. Nest thermostats, so the smart thermostats also have vulnerabilities in them. In this case, there was research, and what they found out was that Nest thermostats could be compromised to control the local network traffic inside your home, as well as monitor the occupancy. So if you think about that, if your job, say, is with a 3-letter agency and you have a Nest thermostat in your house and someone wants to target you and figure out when you're home, that's one way that can be done. Pretty scary, eh? Now this one cracked me up for a couple of reasons. Number one was the name. So, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to the Show Me My smart fryer. There are 2 models here, actually. One is the Show Me, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Xiaomi, Show Me My. I thought that was a funny name for a smart fryer for the reasons that you'll find out in a moment. And the other one is by a company called AgoStar. And these smart fryers, actually air fryers, were not asking for permission, but taking permission, demanding permission to listen in on conversations in the house. So whereas you might say, hey, fryer, cook my French fries, every other discussion you were having in the kitchen, no matter what it was being actively listened to, recorded, and sent back to China.
Ooh.
So don't buy a smart air fryer. So what this basically does, and there have been studies around this as well that show that all of these smart home devices communicating in the house can be uniquely identified through the network traffic that they generate. And they can potentially lead to profiling of a house, right? So if you think about all of the smart devices you have and what they do, right? The smart thermostat regulates the temperature, and it also has sensors in the rooms, a lot of them, so that you can say, well, if someone's in the room, I want the heat turned up. But again, that's occupancy. That's telling me when somebody's home. The cameras can see, the microphones can hear, and not just when you want them to or think they can. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm just David Abramowitz, this guy that lives in a house with some gadgets, and who the heck is going to want my information? But you have to think bigger picture, right? It's not just about what your job might be or what you do for a living, but everything you do in the house, right? I mean, if I use my computer to do online banking, all I need is one way into the home network as a threat actor. And then once I'm in, I can spread out, figure out what else is in the environment, and you'll probably never see me. XIA is pronounced show as in that hurt. Oh, shall as in that. Okay, so shall me my. All right, it's still funny. Yeah, and we've heard about Alexa's, about Amazon's devices also that are listening when they're not supposed to. So I just wanted to highlight a few of the smart home device compromises. So this all leads to sort of a fingerprint in your house. Now, what else can be done? I'm sure you heard about the Mirai botnet. So the Mirai botnet took tens of thousands of these kinds of devices and compromised them and hooked them together to be a delivery mechanism to spread other malware, to infect other devices with Mirai, and just have this massive controllable bot. And so this is just a diagram of how it works. You get the initial infection there.